What is up, everybody? We're back here at Kingdom Sports for the March 3rd Bracketology update here on the channel. We are just under 2 weeks from Selection Sunday when the Ncaa Tournament Committee will release the 68-team bracket officially. Conference tournament season has already begun with the Atlantic Sun and a few more this week. Major conference tournaments will all commence next week here, so kind of the final week of the regular season. And in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys all of my thoughts on the bubble teams and then going through my bracket here. I made some tweaks based on Joe Lunardi's latest bracket and then predicting all of the games until we get to a Final Four and crown a national champion. So we started out here with Joe Lunardi's bubble, as you can see, and now my bubble, which I've updated based on results from this past weekend of play here. So we started out with the last four byes. Baylor had lost 3 straight, but then got right over the weekend against a bad Oklahoma State team. So they stay there almost assuredly in if they can avoid some bad results, as the bubble this year is just really bad in general. Then you've got SDSU. They have been winning some ball games very close over the weekend against Wyoming. Came down to the wire there. A few big missed free throws and some dubious officiating, but they did get it done there by 3 points. Then you've got Indiana here. They won at Washington and they play at Oregon. That's a very tough place to play, obviously, on the West Coast against a great tournament team in Oregon, but we'll see if they can get that one done there. If they win that one, basically assures that they will be in the tournament. Then you've got Ohio State here, did not play over the weekend, and they host Nebraska tomorrow night. That one is going to be huge. Winner definitely feels good about their tournament hopes, and loser is definitely firmly on the bubble. Then last four in here, Georgia, they have had a great last week, knocking off number 2 ranked Florida at home, and then going to Texas and blowing them out there in Austin, won by 20 points, and we're really just dominating the entirety of that matchup there. Then Boise State here gets to the last four in. This one might be slightly controversial here, but I just think that this Boise team has done enough. Yes, it was a close game over the weekend against Fresno, but they did end up winning there, and they do play at Colorado State this Friday, so that's going to be a big game for them. If they win that one, I think that they're comfortably at least in the last four in, but if they lose, then they're going to have to put up some work in the Mountain West tournament there. Then Nebraska, another very tough loss for them over the weekend, lost at the last minute against Minnesota there. Just some tough late game luck, but they're going to have to start winning some of these games. As I mentioned, at Ohio State on Tuesday, that's probably looking like a near must win right now. Then you've got Xavier, who have climbed all the way up here to the last four in, getting the 68th spot here in the bracket as a very good win for them against Creighton at home. And I definitely think that they could have a path here to make the tournament very easy last week of the regular season, and they could potentially go on a run there in the Big East. Then you've got the first four out, and I was very discriminatory for the SEC, but I think that it is correct here. You've got Oklahoma. They lost yet again, given it was a close game at Ole Miss. But I just stress again, they are 14th place in the SEC. They have a 4-12 record in conference play. Yes, I know they went 13-0 out of conference there, but just such a bad conference record. I think that they're going to have to get some wins here in the last week of the regular season and then potentially make a quarterfinal or semifinal run in the SEC tournament there. Then UNC, I can't deny it. They've been winning a lot of these games here, and they've got Duke coming up on Saturday, so definitely watch out if they can win that one there against a great Duke team. Then a couple more SEC teams here. Arkansas, yes, they had won a couple games in a row against Missouri and Texas at home. Then they go to the worst team in the SEC, 1-win South Carolina, and they get blown up. Only 14 points there in the first half. It was never a game there. The Hogs get slaughtered in Columbia, South Carolina there, so that takes them out of the tournament for now. And Texas had also lost to that South Carolina team the week before. Then they lost close at Arkansas and then had a great spot against Georgia at home. And as I mentioned, were just completely dominated in that one. So they are out as well. And then you've got some of the more ACC teams here. Wake Forest, they play Duke tonight and are about 22-point underdogs in that matchup. So we'll see if they can get that one done. That's just a very tough spot for them, but they're going to have to get some wins like that if they want to make the tournament. Then you've got SMU, who lost to Stanford over the weekend. That's not great. Cincinnati put up a decent fight at Houston, but just weren't able to get that one done there. We'll see if they can win some of these games last week of Big 12 play and potentially in the Big 12 tournament. And then sneaky, I think that Villanova could make a case here to get into the tournament if they win their last couple of games and likewise go on a run in the Big East tournament, but we will see there. So in the first four in this bracket, I would have Nebraska playing Xavier. I'm going to give that one to Xavier. I think they're playing much better right now, so they earn the 12 seed in the tournament. And then Georgia versus Boise State. This one was very close for me. Georgia's been playing very well, but I just think that Boise State, especially on the defensive end, would be able to hunker down and beat that Bulldog team very close. So that brings us to the bracket here. And of course, we have Auburn at the number 1 overall seed. Once again, another great win on the road at Kentucky. We're leading wire to wire in that matchup. We're pretty much always up by double digits or more there. So give me Auburn to advance to the second round. Then a very compelling matchup between Illinois and UConn. Remember that Illinois was on the 3 or 4 line a few weeks ago, but then had a disastrous stretch where a lot of the players were sick. They could not hit a shot, and their defense was pretty bad. But big win on the road in Ann Arbor against Michigan on Sunday. I think that they'll probably be above an 8 seed, probably probably a 6 or 7 seed in the actual bracket here, but I will give them this win over UConn there. UConn, yes, did beat Providence over the weekend, but I just do not see anything special out of them there, so give me the Illini to advance. Then we've got Clemson against Xavier, and I think that Clemson pretty easily will win this one there. They were actually in a tough game at Virginia there in the first half, but their offense did reign supreme in that one, so give me them to advance. Then we've got Arizona here at the 4 line. They did have a very tough go of it at Iowa State over the weekend, but I just think that speaks more to the healthy Cyclones team at this point than it does the Wildcats. That was just a tough spot for them, so we'll see if they can get right against Arizona State in the coming days. Then Marquette versus VCU here. I'm going to go with an upset in this matchup. I think the Rams get this one done. I think that this VCU team is absolutely rolling here. We'll see if they can get an at-large bid from the A-10 if they do end up losing that conference tournament, but I just do not think they're going to do it if they keep playing this way here at this point. So I do think that VCU would advance against a Marquette team that has just not shown me much on the offensive end as of late. Then St. John's actually had a dogfight of a game against a horrible Seton Hall team at MSG over the weekend, but were able to get that one done, giving them to advance over James Madison. And then Mississippi State versus San Diego State. This one was essentially a toss-up for me, but I do really like this San Diego State team, so I'll narrowly take them over the Bulldogs of Mississippi State there, and then give me Michigan State to advance as well. So then we get into the second round matchup. We've got Auburn versus Illinois. I do not think that any of these number 1 seeds will want to take on this Illinois team in the second round here, given I recognize that Illinois got absolutely destroyed by Duke at MSG when they played. But I do think that if Illinois is hitting their shots, they could present somewhat of a problem against this Auburn team. But Auburn just playing their best basketball of the year right now, so give me them to advance. Then Clemson versus Arizona. I think this one would be very close here, but really like the way that this Clemson team is playing, especially on the defensive end. So give me them to advance over kind of a volatile Arizona team there. And then I'm taking St. John's and their great defensive prowess under Pitino to win against VCU there. And then I'll take Sparty to beat SDSU. Great win for the Spartans over the weekend against Wisconsin in a game that Wisconsin, yes, wasn't hitting very many shots, but Michigan State was just great in transition in that one in the electric Breslin Center there. Then Auburn, I've got them beating Clemson there. I really like this Clemson team, but just against this juggernaut Auburn team, I've got to give them the love there to get to the Elite Eight. And then a very interesting matchup here between Pitino and Izzo. Obviously, these two teams don't have the great star power. Spartans probably have a little bit more, but just very well coached here. Great on defense, at least for St. John's, and I think that gives them the advantage there. I just do not think that the Spartans have enough shot makers against this St. John's team, so give me them to advance the Elite Eight. I do think that they could grind that one down against Auburn. We saw that a few weeks back when Auburn played Tennessee at home. That was the game that Janai Broome just got back from his injury, and that one went down to the wire there. Auburn almost lost at home, so I do think that St. John's could do that, but I just do not think that they'd be able to hit enough shots against this Auburn tough defense, so I would take Auburn to advance to the Final Four. Then we get to the Eastern region where we've got Duke once again as the number 1 seed here, and I will take them to advance. Then we've got New Mexico and Vanderbilt. I was really struggling with this matchup because I really like the way this Lobos team has been playing in the Mountain West. But then you've got Vanderbilt. I was tough on them, but they have been playing actually really good basketball as of late here. We know about some of the wins that they've gotten at home. They notably won against Texas A&M, and then a crazy comeback over the weekend against Missouri there in overtime. So really do like the way that team's playing, but I will narrowly give the edge to New Mexico there. Then we've got Missouri versus Yale. As I mentioned, Mizzou, tough loss over the weekend in Nashville. Yale also had an undefeated season going in Ivy League play, but did lose to Harvard, so I will give this one to Missouri there. I just think they're much more talented. And then Purdue finally gets right over the weekend against UCLA, stopping that 4-game losing streak, so I will take them to beat Lipscomb, and Lipscomb in the Atlantic Sun here, so they will commence their conference tournament. They are the number 1 seed there, so we'll see if they can get that one done. Then we've got the SoCal matchup between UCLA and UC San Diego, and I'm going to do it again. Give me the Tritons to advance in another one of these brackets here. I just think that they're better than UCLA right now, and I would be interested to see a point spread in that matchup. People would think that UCLA would be a big favorite in that one. I'm not sure how much they would be. Definitely not over 2 possessions in that matchup, but I just do think that the way that UC San Diego team plays, especially on the defensive end, would be able to get it done there. We'll see if they can get an at-large bid if they do lose the tournament championship to UC Irvine there, but that will be very interesting. Then Texas Tech, I've got them beating Towson. Then we get to Memphis versus Indiana, and I'm narrowly going to go Memphis here. I do think that they've been playing very well. PJ Haggerty was hitting some very tough shots against UAB and did get a win in a very tough environment there over the weekend. So credit to them for that, and we'll see if Indiana can get this win at Oregon tomorrow night. Then I've got Florida taking down Norfolk State, so that brings us to the second round where we've got Duke against New Mexico. I'm going to go Duke pretty easily in that matchup. Then Purdue versus Missouri. I was really weighing each side here, but I ended up going with Purdue. I just think that the ceiling of this team is very high, especially when Braden Smith is not turning the ball over. He's one of the best guards in the country there, and when they're hitting their shots, Trey Kaufman-Wren playing very well down low. So I do recognize the dynamism also of this Missouri team, but I'm narrowly going to go Purdue there. Then I'm going to take Texas Tech to beat UC San Diego in that one. And then I'm going to go with Florida, another great win for them over the weekend to bounce back after that Georgia loss, big win over Texas A&M there. And then we get to the Sweet 16 here. We've got Duke, and I'm taking them to beat Purdue in this matchup there pretty easily. I just think that their talent is far better than Purdue and much better on the defensive end, certainly. Then we get to Texas Tech versus Florida. I was weighing each of these sides. It could definitely go either way, but I really like the way that this Texas Tech team has been playing. Yes, they lost a couple in a row, but they got it right over the weekend, so I will take this Red Raider team to advance the Elite Eight. I do think that they would present a very interesting matchup for this Duke team with that stifling defense, but I will take Duke to advance to the Final Four as well there. So that brings us to the lower left quadrant here, the Western Regional, and we've got a new number 1 seed in this quadrant, as we seemingly always do when we do these bracketology updates. Tennessee is back to the number 1 seed ranks. So you remember that they were there about a month ago, but lost a couple of games. Now they're back here after that crazy win against Bama over the weekend, so they advance against Omaha there. Then we get to the Battle of Utah here between BYU and Utah State. This would be very interesting here, but I really just do respect the offensive prowess of this BYU team. But if they weren't hitting shots, I definitely think that the Aggies could take that down in that one. Then we've got St. Mary's versus Drake. Again, I say I really want to pick Drake to win in one of these brackets here. I do really like their style of play. But against the St. Mary's team and that great defense, I just can't take them to win that one. So give me the Gales to advance there. Then we've got Michigan versus Liberty. Give me the Wolverines to win easily in that one as well. Then we get to Oregon versus Boise State, battle of these Northwest teams, and I will take Oregon to win this one, but I do recognize that Boise State with that talented defense could present some problems for this Ducks team there. Then we're taking Kentucky to beat Chattanooga, although you can never trust this Kentucky team with these 14 seeds. Then we get to Louisville versus West Virginia, and I will take this Louisville Cardinals team to get this one done yet again. I just think that this Louisville team is one of the most underrated teams in the country. Can't really gauge how good they are against the best teams because they really just don't face that in ACC, but another great win for them over the weekend against Pitt. And then we'll take Iowa State to beat Central Connecticut there. Then we get to the next round where we've got Tennessee versus BYU. I was definitely tempted to give BYU the upset. You guys know I've been predicting BYU to go very far. I understand their danger potential for number 1 seed here, but I do just think that this Tennessee team, especially on defense, Chaz Lanier hitting the big shots, would be able to clear the Cougars there. Then we get to St. Mary's versus Michigan. Definitely think that Michigan is one of the most fraudulent teams for these top seeds in the country. So even though they are a 4 seed there, I will take St. Mary's to clear them in advance of the Sweet 16. You just see in these close games, they're winning a lot of them very close with some clutch shot making, but they get run out of the building sometimes, as was evidenced when their shots weren't falling and they could not play great defense against Illinois in that matchup on Sunday. Then we've got Oregon versus Kentucky. Definitely think this one could go either way here. Kentucky, high variance style of play, and I will take Oregon. I just think that they've been playing very good basketball here. Wouldn't shock me if they actually ended up going on a little Cinderella run there in the Big Ten tournament and won the whole thing, but we will see there. And then we've got Louisville versus Iowa State. I will take the Cyclones at full strength here as one of the best teams in the nation to beat Louisville in advance there. Then we get to Tennessee versus St. Mary's. I will take St. Mary's once again to the Elite Eight. I had them going to the Final Four in the last bracket. And since then, they almost lost to LMU, and then we're in a bit of a dogfight on senior night against Oregon State. That means that they are done with their regular season and will now go to the WCC tournament. So we'll see if they can get that one done there. But I do think that their defense matches up very well against this Tennessee team, kind of mirror images of each other there. And I do think that Mitchell Saxon would be great underneath there, and Marshallonis would hit some clutch shots there. So definitely would be an underdog in that game, but I do like their potential for the upset. So I will take the Gales once again to get to the Elite Eight. Then I will take Iowa State and their great defense against Oregon, and they too can hit some big shots with Keyshawn Gilbert, Momcilovic, and others. So then you've got Iowa State versus St. Mary's. Obviously, Jefferson transferred to Iowa State from St. Mary's, so this would be an interesting matchup in the Elite Eight, but I do think that Momcilovic makes the difference here for this Iowa State team in his return, so I will take the Cyclones team to advance to the Final Four there. And then we get to the final region here. Houston, now the number 3 overall seed. I remember when I was doing these brackets a few weeks ago, Houston was always on the 2 or 3 line, now reliably at the number 1 seed, only 1 loss in Big 12 play, but they do play Kansas tonight. Even at home, I think that one could present a bit of a problem. I like Kansas plus the 10 to keep that one close. Be sure to look at the Betting Picks Discord there in the description. But I will take them to beat Bryant in the first round. Then I will take Gonzaga to beat Creighton here in the 8-9 matchup. Creighton, tough loss for them at Xavier. We're just never in that game over the weekend. Then Maryland versus McNeese. I likewise really want to pick McNeese, as I've said with some of these other 12 seeds in the video, but going against a buzzsaw right now in Maryland. Yes, very tough loss to Michigan State last week, but then got a very hard-fought victory at Penn State over the weekend there. Then I'll take Texas A&M on a bit of a schneid right now. I think they've lost 3 or 4 in a row, but I do think they beat Akron there. Then Kansas versus Ohio State. I think this one could go either way right now. We'll see how Ohio State fares in that matchup tomorrow night, and we'll see how Kansas fares tonight against Houston. But I do think that there is something left in this Kansas team here. I think that they could go on a dark horse run here under Bill Self with all this talent, but we will see. Then I've got Wisconsin taking out Utah Valley. Then I've got Baylor with a narrow upset against Ole Miss. That one really just could go either way there between those two teams, but I like the way that this Bears team has been fighting. So I think that they would take down the Rebels, and then I will take Alabama to beat Robert Morris there. Then we advance to the second round. I will take Houston just with their stifling defense over Gonzaga. I mean, Gonzaga top 10 in the net and Ken Palm would not shock me if they were within a few points in the spread against Houston, but I do think that the Cougars would be able to stop them there and advance to the Sweet 16. Then Maryland versus Texas A&M. I'm clearly going to go with the Terps in this one. Texas A&M just has not been able to make big shots, and their defense has actually been crumbling, so we'll see if they can get the ship turned around there. And then we've got an interesting matchup, Kansas and Wisconsin. AJ Storr obviously transferred over the offseason and now is not playing great with Kansas here. He's not actually getting that much playing time under Bill Self, so that's one of the internal issues there, and I definitely think that this Badgers team, though they lost to Michigan State over the weekend, I do think that they advance there. Then I will take Alabama and their shot making to beat Baylor and advance to the Sweet 16 themselves. Then we get to the Sweet 16 matchups. I will take Houston over Maryland, although Maryland with their youth and their talent could definitely challenge this Houston team, but I do think that Houston advances. Then I will take Alabama to beat Wisconsin. And then in the Elite Eight, this would be a very interesting matchup between the Houston defense and the Alabama offense, but usually in those matchups, the defense does prevail, so I will take this Cougars team and LJ Cryer to advance to the Final Four here. So you see we've got two Big 12 teams, very interesting given the dominance of the SEC. And with Auburn playing Iowa State in this first matchup, we obviously saw Iowa State have that big lead in Maui Jim. I've referenced it all the time because I feel like these two teams always play in these brackets, but then Auburn wins at the buzzer. I think that Iowa State gets right. That was the only game this season where they were at full strength. You saw what they were capable of over the weekend with that big home win against Arizona, so I think they advance against this Auburn team in spite of how well the Tigers are playing. Then I will take Duke to beat Houston there, although it definitely could go either way. And then in the final, I will go with the Cyclones team of Iowa State to cut down the nets there. So with all that being said, let me know what you guys think of my bracket in the comments down below. Do you agree with some of my Final Four and national championship picks? What are your thoughts on the bubble? Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.